And everybody, we are live again on another Thursday here with a special topic. So this is one of our anticipation topics for this week, a bulletproof business plan. So we're going to be breaking down the importance of a business plan because we all know if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it's a great quote. I heard that quote in middle school, Devontae.
Yeah, definitely.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So we got Devontae, we got JD here, and
Yeah.
guys, how y'all doing this evening as we let everybody kind of get in here?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself, guys?
Good, bro. Good. Can't complain. Can't complain. Yeah, I can't tell you how many coaches told me that same quote too. How many football coaches have used that? That is definitely a long running quote that hits tried and true.
I butchered it a little bit, but it's all good.
For sure.
Well, let's go ahead, man, and just kind of get started a little bit, right? So business plan. So who all started their business with a business plan written out before they actually did anything?
Man, shoot, I jumped head first in this thing. I ain't gonna even front. I did not. I ran straight into the wall, bro. So I was like, I'll figure it out as I'm going. And if I get caught up, you know what I'm saying, I'll pivot when I need to. But yeah, definitely wasn't my forte. I know this is your wheelhouse though, Marcus. You love strategizing and mapping this kind of stuff out, man. So anxious to hear like what was your process when starting your business plan.
Hey, so I tell you, just kind of take it back. Believe it or not, when I started Zip, I did not have a full business plan written out. There's a special reason why I didn't do that. But when it comes to a business plan, you know, I think of like the executive summary, the company description, what your products and services are. You do your market analysis on where you're going to be serving, what community you're going to service, your strategy, implementation process, your organization management, all these financial planning and projections, things like that. They go into the business plan. So when I started my other businesses, yes, I wrote that out because I really wanted to know, you know, is it viable? How am I going to deliver the products and services? What products and services should I start out with? What could come later on? But when I started the Zip Appliance Repair, I didn't because I basically bought the business plan from Mike Sneed and the Academy over at Appliance Bootcamp. So I got a chance to skip the step, learn the business plan because it was already written, and develop a specific marketing plan for myself.
Nice.
Very nice. Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Marcus.
No, I was gonna say, Devontae, man, what do you think?
I think well, mine is kind of I had a general idea about what I wanted to do, and what I was going to be doing. I mean, because I would ask a lot of those questions that you asked too. My perspective was a lot on the financial part. It was like how viable this business is financially. You know, like how can I sustain it financially? I knew that the business was, you know, I knew people were doing the business. I knew it was it wasn't like it was a new business for like a new business idea like nobody ever done before. That wasn't the thought of mine. My thought was more so was like, how long can I sustain the business and how much money can I make, and did it make sense? You know, that I would put my energy to the business. That's what I was more so about.
Well, shoot, for everybody who's watching right now, too, I forgot to mention, we do have a free downloadable business plan template. And also, as a bonus, if you watch to the end, you'll also be able to get the free marketing business plan template that I use to accelerate my business leads and growth. So through acquiring customers. You'll be able to get those. You can get those at reifinancialgroup.com/business plan. So the link will be in the comments. All right. Well, let's take a quick look, man. Where do we begin? So you focus on the finance. JD was like, what plan? I was like, I'm just gonna buy a plan. So most people start here with the executive summary, right? So the executive summary, and the reason why that's always first, you don't necessarily have to write it out first, but you should think of your business plan as a report or as a presentation that's being presented to someone who knows nothing about you whatsoever, right? And the executive summary is always some short or maximum, I would say 3 to 4 sentences about your business in general and how it operates. So you're talking about the key financial things, you're talking about the audience and what products and services you actually deliver. Now, this is important because most people can be a little bit wordy when it comes to telling people what they actually do, right? So JD, man, what do you do when you talk to people and you're telling them what you do for a living? How do you describe that?
I describe it as I help people find their dream homes. I help families. I try to get over wordy with it too, but I try to also not be basic. I don't like to just say I help people buy and sell homes. I like to find a solution to their home needs. So that's how I put it. I help people find their dream homes. I help people sell their homes so they can find their new dream home.
Devontae, man, what about you, man? What's your transition, or what is your short elevator pitch about what you do for your business?
Basically provide transportation for people in and out of wheelchairs to their medical appointments.
In and out of wheelchairs to their medical appointments. See, and as simple as it sounds, that's really all you need up front. So that's the opening part of your executive summary. And then you want to, give a brief description if you didn't already. So you help, it could be seniors or a certain age group or a certain class of, I don't know when it comes to that. People who have certain ailments or whatever, right? Could be your specific audience.
Right.
JD, same for you, man. You could be first-time home buyers. It could be millennials. It could be high executive clients. Whatever your age group will be, that summary will be in that summary. So that way you can clearly define who your audience is. Services, you guys got that down packed. That's usually the easiest one, right? So when you have a business, you're doing a service or a product. But the financial projections, so that's one that's always kind of left out. So when you think of financial projections, from my standpoint, I look at the service area and try to base it on what projected market share I'm going to have. So in my projection for this year, as part of my goal, $2 million. So that can go in there, and that also gives you a target when you're dealing with your business plan as well.
Give you something to aim for.
Yeah. Now, this is it's kind of like the blocking and tackling of everything, but when it comes to your company description, so you need to really think about how your business is going to be structured. Is it going to be C Corp, you're going to S Corp, LLC, partnership, whatever that is? If you're doing it and it's not from scratch, or you're acquiring a company, You want to have a brief history and the nature, right, of your business, and just kind of a real kind of outline, bullet points of your specific product, services, customers, and suppliers. Okay. So that's really the top part. Products and services, it clearly describes what you're selling and what you're focusing on. So now this is a good one because most people, when they're starting a business, and Devontae, I'm going to pitch this one over you. When you started your most current business, what did you feel like was your ideal client versus what is actually your ideal client today?
Yeah, I figure you go in that direction. I think that's what happens. You start to find, as you start to do the business, you think this is gonna be my ideal client. I thought my ideal client was going to be private rides. I was going for big ticket items, rides to. I was looking at the people that was going to charge the most money, but I really didn't realize later on that. That would be great to have that large ticket item, but it didn't give me what I value, which is consistency. And so I ended up changing my target audience to Medicaid. And then I even focused more on dialysis because they were more specific and repetitive. And that allowed me to look at how I can build a system off of these consistent rides versus doctor appointments were, every 3 months, maybe a specialist, but they weren't consistent enough. So definitely my target audience changed and became more specific.
Now, think about this from this perspective, right? You're thinking about your specific audience, and now in your business plan, you can write out how you're going to serve them, but it also is going to be some point of clarity, especially if you're starting from scratch, of how you're going to produce the service to them. So if they're going to be in wheelchairs, then you're going to need a wheelchair lift.
A van.
And you're going to need a van, and et cetera. So walk us through your customer journey, and then or your ideal customer today, and how does that compare to what you did when you broke down your market, going from private pay to where you are right now?
So I'm sorry, that actually the last part again.
So just break down how you go from your private pay to your current clientele and the market, the overall market, Northwest Indiana today, and how that aligned was important.
Okay, so we can start with, initially I thought private pay, I thought obviously I didn't have access to those people, so I had to do marketing. So that looked totally different. I had to actually go find those people, I had to talk to those people. I had become a part of any groups to advertise I was providing that service and get my name out there. And then once I did that, I had to look at, marketing was there, and then I had to look at the vehicle type. But that vehicle type was that going to be conducive for that kind of trip, rides to the airport, maybe rides to the grocery store, et cetera. And it definitely seemed like an uphill battle for me to do that. And while still doing the actual brokered trips, I saw there was a huge need for wheelchair. And actually, it kind of happened because of just working with my provider relations person, just pitching information from them, figuring out how to figure the business out, basically. We had a rate change, and then the rate change, they said, well, we have a need for wheelchair. If you do that, we can change your rates to blah, 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 right? And I thought, okay, off of those numbers, we could probably do pretty well. it still didn't click to me that we were headed in a new direction. I was still trying to create some kind of private rides with maybe some nursing homes, et cetera, doing those things. But then what happened is we started to see more consistent rides. The income started to change. Phone calls started getting a lot of phone calls requesting trips. And I said, hey, I'm going to look for this, but it's actually right here. It's coming to me. Let me just go this route. And so it was the commitment to go the route of the wheelchair and the Medicaid rides, which my perception coming into was that was the cheap way. And I wasn't going to be making enough money. That was a perception. If I went that way, it was going to be cheap rides. The clientele was going to be low quality, and it was going to be a headache. And I quickly found out that everyone thought that. So if everyone was going that way, I was going to go this way. And it became a thing of, well, how do I make this profitable? How do I look at this and make this work? So it became a thing of planning out. Well, we got down to detail, like down to the minute of how long it takes us to get to a person, get them in a vehicle, get them to their destination, get them secured. All of that was like planned out by the minute. And then it was been trial and errors, walking through that process myself. Well, it takes me about, I thought it would take like 10 minutes to get a person in a wheelchair in the van and then get them there. Like, that's not going to work, but it actually looked a whole lot different. If I can get it down in like 3 minutes, I can get them in a wheelchair, it's secured in about 3 minutes, and we're off and going. And then it started looking at, okay, well, these are the trips that are available. How do I squeeze the timelines to get more trips into my day? I talked to you about this, Marcus. We talked about, looking at the actual daily trips I do per day, how much money I was making per day, and getting to the idea of how can I make $500 a day? And that's kind of the process. And once I got that down, makes sense. It's like, okay, this is the direction we're going. So if the direction we're going is this way, then my vehicle looks different. My processes look a whole lot different. I'm not worried about private trips anymore. I'm not doing any marketing, so I'm not gonna do any marketing. I just got to pass the business cards out and rely on the broker. I got to focus on customer service, because that's what really sold the deal for most people. But my direction just dramatically changed.
And man, and that's important to hear the story that you're able to pivot like that, because most people, man, they'll write something down or have it in their head that this is the way I'm going to do it, and they'll try to fit that square peg in that round hole, man. So that's and I think it's important. Business plans, they're not like forever, right? Obviously the business plans change when the money ain't right. Right.
It better.
Well, no, that's good. Now, JD, man, you both of you guys are providing services, to clients. Now, JD, talk about your ideal customer. And just like myself, you're not originally from Bakersfield, but we've been here a long time, and we know that there's a younger population base, and there's a lot of kids. But talk about, man, from your perspective, your ideal customer, your service provides, and how the market plays a factor in that.
Man, I know. So for me, like I told you, coming into this gung ho, I felt like everybody was my client. I wanted to, I want to take advantage of any opportunity I can reach, and just felt like, I try to absorb and take on anybody. But what I learned, especially with how I market and my personality, me using the belt, me using the whole championship gimmick, it resonates. One, like everybody kind of recognize it, but it resonates with a certain crowd. Potentially like millennials, things like that. So that mid 20 to mid 50 range is probably my ideal clientele, because they see it, they light up, they've had, those visions of grandeur of being a champ in some way, shape, or form. So they think and they connect to Hulk Hogan, to The Rock, things like that. So it's a very easy connection, especially with if I'm marketing, on Instagram, Facebook, things like that, where people just gravitate to it a little bit more. So I found that pitching to that crowd is a lot smoother and a lot easier. That's the one I want to focus more on. So that's what, when after doing this for a certain amount of time, I realized like that's my ideal avatar.
And see, man, that's important too, because do you feel like that you thought that was going to be your original avatar when you started out, or how quickly did you pivot?
Nah, man, pretty quick, and even after going through trying to build rapport, with maybe even older families or whatnot, like people that are in a more traditional mindset and setting. It's just it feels more like kind of what you said earlier, forcing a square peg forcing a circle into a square peg. It just didn't fit as smoothly. Trust me, I've been able to work, and I can adjust and be a chameleon in that aspect, but just to build that rapport and make it smooth and be more efficient with my time, it's a lot easier to go with that demographic.
Hey, man, that makes sense. So we're going to do a quick recap, right? So, if you plan to fail, plan. If you fail to plan to fail. I'm going to say it right one time, man.
You're going to get it right one of these times, baby.
Man, we're going to bulletproof that statement more than just bulletproof business plan. But we touched on the executive summary, your company description, products and services, your market analysis, and also the strategy and implementation. I feel like one thing when you're writing out your business plan that people really make a mistake on when it comes down to the organization and it's basically the org chart and the management chart, especially if you start out a business by yourself. People tend to skip that because you're just by yourself. So you're like, the org chart is me. But what you really should do is you should draw out your complete org chart based on where you see this business, how far it could go.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So if you think long term, it'll satisfy a couple things that you'll need down the pathway. Because when you start to get business and you start to get overwhelmed, the first question you ask yourself is, who should I hire? It's easy if you already got an org chart, because you already know who you want to hire for every position in your organization. So all you have to do is pick which one you don't like doing the most, that quite frankly, you can pay the least. And you do that one first, right? Especially if you're just depending on, this income as your only source of income. If you got a big bag, you can pick another one that could be most impactful. So the one that's going to give you the biggest return. You don't necessarily look on how much it's going to cost you. You're just going to look on how much we can get back, by duplicating. So it's either going to be some type of admin position, or it's going to be some kind of product or revenue generating position, right? But you will never know that if you haven't written out your business plan. So that was one thing, or your org chart. So that was one thing when I did start Zip, I did have a complete org chart. So that was something different from the plan that I got from the boot camp. And from day one, I shared it with everybody that I hired. They had a vision, an understanding of what the org chart looked like, where we were today. And every quarterly meeting, I bring it back up. I show the org chart where we are, what other new positions we're going to add in, and hey, go from there. It's but I feel like it's really important. It'll give you that vision. Devontae, man, what do you think about that, man, when you're envisioning where you're going in the future as far as growth in your organization?
It's funny because you saw it again? 5 drivers. I knew we was heading that direction. And it's funny you said that, because I did do that. I thought about the expansion before we got really going, because I did start the business with that in mind, that I didn't want to work this business. I had already left the position that I was already like knee deep in, and I didn't want that to happen again. And it ended up happening again. But I thought about what positions I wanted to have to expand it. It just the thing was that everything just changed, because initially we talked about this earlier, that my idea for the business, the people I was going to be serving, I thought was going to look a certain way. And I had no idea I was going in another direction. And then the person I ended up hiring, so it was me, myself, and my admin. So I thought that this admin was going to work her to place a position to take over for me and allow me to step out of the business. She would manage the business, and then I would be able to do something else. But it turns out it's going a different direction. She's still interested in being admin, but she's not interested in the business that much. So I'm still going to need someone to manage the business. But even that's changing now. I'm thinking about it differently. I'm thinking about just taking this area and licensing this area out to someone else while still maintaining control of it without needing to hire a manager.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, JD, man, I'll toss the same question to you, right? Because we all have these same type of challenges, right? Finding the right people for right roles, and also being comfortable with the people that we find, being able to do stuff without overlooking every little thing. I've gotten a lot better than that. Probably to the point where my guys are probably like, "Hey, is he still here?" Some days, but I am. I'm watching.
They know it. They know it. Yeah, no, I think like a couple points on this. One, definitely as far as picking the right people, I think that's key. Making sure that those people align with your vision wherever you're trying to take the company. As you said, if your idea is to save money initially and you have to go with somebody cheaper, find the cheapest person that is most efficient. If your goal is biggest bang for your buck, you want somebody that's going to really help you grow. Yeah, you might initially take a hit with hiring that person, but the overall goal is to get bigger. But what I really like about this too, planning out and thinking this far ahead, even if, like you said, you start the business yourself first, is that this also is a mindset thing. This gives you the vision and the mindset that your company is going to grow to the level that you want it to grow. And if you don't have that ahead of time, you're going to stay small. I think that's a big, like, even as I'm looking at that, that's totally what I'm thinking. And I know that's something like, we've had those conversations about, JD, you've told me, JD, you got to think about building a team. JD, you got to think about getting your broker's license. You got to think that far out. And, those are things I know I struggled with because it was hard to see out that far. But I think even if you aren't thinking that initially and you're planning it out with this structure, it makes it very hard to ignore the end goal. So that's where I look at when I see this. That's a big part I think about when I'm looking at this is planning for your future, not just for your right now.
Yeah. Hey, and I'm gonna ask to kind of segment into that next part, right? So you look at your organization chart, or you look at what type of people you want to work with, what type of positions you want in the business, however you want it structured. You have to have some kind of idea on how much it's going to cost, right? You have to have that financial, the budgeting, and the projections, the return on investment for your leads. Or in Tavante's case, man, you got brokers, or you just you get the leads over. So I don't know how that works, but Tavante, man, we'll kick it with you, especially since you started with the financial aspect first. What did that actually look like for you?
Initially, I just thought about it from I first did my financials. I looked at it from a very action oriented. If I do this action, what will it yield me? So provide this trip, how much money will I get from this trip? And then how can I build that out to some kind of daily revenue, what that look like. I made a huge mistake initially, and that's my middle name. Huge mistakes about it,
Slash guru.
right. I mean, that's how I became the guru, because I knew it all. I make a lot of mistakes, and but I overestimated the revenue initially. I was told a certain number, but the understanding of what that number meant, the definition of what that meant, a trip versus a round trip, I didn't quite understand that. And it just totally, I had this pie in the sky idea of what this was going to look like. It didn't look like that at all. It looked half of that, And so that was a huge thing. And then it was like, well, I'm here. How do I make this work? I can't go back now, So the financials, and that along with my idea on my target audience, that kind of came together and helped me change my financials. But first, initially, it started with just a daily income, and that broke out to a weekly and monthly. And then I looked at all my expenses. So what was going to take me to run the business on a day-to-day basis, and had that as a total. Broke that down to a daily expense, and I looked at, okay, what am I making daily? Does that make sense? And then blew it out for the whole entire year. So I got done. I had like a whole year of what my numbers looked like, which would have been awesome if they'd have been accurate, but it wasn't accurate. So in my mind, I had a foolproof plan of how it was going to work, and I knew how I was going to expand the business based on the numbers. But of course, like I said, those numbers weren't accurate. Yeah. It was after that I changed my target audience that it became more accurate.
So I know, like, man, a revenue miss on the budget could be killer. Now, as far as your expenses, were you able to control them, or are they more accurate, or no?
Man, so I thought initially, well, the largest expenditure from my business was the commercial auto insurance. That's a huge one. Initially, you have to carry that insurance for 6 months without any revenue. So that's the first one that's really difficult. And then there's a lot of upfront costs. So you're paying for it, but then you have to put money up front as a down payment. Plus, you have to carry the insurance monthly while you wait for everything to happen. So, I mean, I had cash reserves, I had money on hand, so I wasn't really worried about it, and I was actually pretty confident about it. Again, go back to that inaccurate number. So I was able to control them eventually. It just took time to really start to understand them. I think the business plan is really, really key, because it helps you think over a lot of things. Unfortunately, there's just gonna be things you're not gonna know until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, now before I forget, please like, comment, subscribe in the video down below.
Click the buttons.
Now, JD, man, you come. So Devontae had his kind of set up. He's got the broker. He knows he's going to at least get a couple trips out the gate about, broker gives him pricing. For you as a real estate agent, man, so you go into the world of real estate, man, it's going to be cash thrown at you left and right, man. How'd you do that budget?
Your boy, budget. I was out here on go get it mode. I think, and we discussed this on one of our last calls, like getting into this game, you aren't necessarily at first thinking of yourself as a business. You're thinking of yourself as an agent. So it is all like, literally, like I said, even the brokerage I was first in was show up, make calls, show up, do money making actions. I'm not going into it, and especially I'm using my own money. I was trying to find the cheapest way possible to collect leads. So that was making calls and door knocking, using systems that were provided for me. Getting into real estate and purchasing leads, if you don't know how to be creative, is expensive. Going through companies like Zillow, Realtor.com, things like that, like you may not initially have that budget. Even sending mailers, that can start to add up really, really fast, depending on how you're doing it, because you can't expect to send out 100 mailers and get a response. You got to send out a few thousand repetitively to the same neighborhood before you get some type of response. So all those things, they can be very, very costly. So what I had to learn how to do is be, extremely due diligent with using the tools that were provided to me and kind of getting it out of the mud, and just learning how to utilize tools that, are very, very efficient or economically friendly to create my own list of leads and follow up with those leads. Before I didn't even have a dialing system, I was dialing everything by hand. I was putting numbers on an Excel sheet and dialing everything by hand as fast as I possibly could. So, I'm kind of glad I did it that way, because it kind of gave me the foundation to where, one, if I would have been paying for leads up front without having that foundation and learning the way I was learning, I would have been pissing that money away anyway, because I wouldn't have known what to do with those leads. I would have been running through a bud. I wouldn't have been properly run. I would have just been paying up front for leads and literally pissing them away. So I'm kind of glad I learned this way. But as I've gotten more established, had these talks, start doing strategy calls and stuff with you, I've learned, that back end is just as important. So then I started learning to take a check of, or take a chunk of my closing check and literally put that to the side, not think about it, not worry about it. Look, this percentage is just for my marketing budget. I'm gonna let it come back on the front end. So kind of similar to kind of what Devontae did, like learn to adjust on the fly as I was going. Like I said, my industry is a little bit different, and I didn't start with funding. I know there are with building this, depending on business that you're building, you may start with some funding, you may start with some upfront costs. You may have to pay for some type of lead generating system if you can't build it organically like I know I can. So I totally see how important it is as my business is slowly expanding.
Hey man, it's big, man. When you're talking about revenue, you're talking about expenses like marketing budgets and other miscellaneous like filing fees. I didn't know, and I didn't think about it, right? You had to have that commercial insurance in place for all those months. And
That's crazy.
Man, not driving, man, can't have a client. That sucks. It sucks.
Literally gotta just sit on it, man.
So, imagine, man, not accounting for that or being all in and just like, oh, damn, I don't got it. That's one thing. And now, for me, like I got the business plan that I purchased, right? So we know where to get the leads from. It's not exactly like Devontae's, but close. I know marketing budget because I had a marketing company. So I kind of know where my marketing is going to come flow from outside of what we were taught in the course. All right. So I got projections there. And I had to combine that with how the rate of growth, right? You're only going to get so many calls from your broker, Devontae, right? Before you have to go out and get more private pay. In appliance repair, we're only going to get so many calls from a warranty company or OEM. They're only going to send us so many. So on our projected growth, we have to, it goes back to the market, what does the market population look like? And how much market share you have, and how do you market to that market share to optimize where you're going to go. So I created a budget template for the company where I can plug in how many, the labor, so the guys who are actually running the calls, and I can project out what their max capacity should be based on a certain average ticket that we get, and I have that, potential revenue per person at full capacity. And then I always break it down 85%. So if we're full capacity, I budget at 85%. And then I go into the revenue part. Where are we going to get the calls? Starting out, this can be difficult. I did not do this part starting out for the projection growth. I only projected out for the first 6 months, because the first 6 months I had an idea on how many calls I can get from warranty companies. And that's all, you put it in there and you go with it, because that projection for that first 6 months will help you understand if you're on task, if you're doing something right, and it's going to be a viable business, or is it time for you to wrap it up, call it a day? Okay. Because you can always go back and work for somebody. Did I say that last week too?
Yes, sir. Jobs keep coming.
Jobs keep coming. But man, overall, like a marketing plan or a business plan, it's not a lot to add in, but once you get going, man, this thing can take you hours to complete. But
that was going to be my question for you, like about how long on average, when because you've built a few businesses.
Yeah.
On average, how long does it take you to put one of these together?
About 4 hours. So I never can sit down and just kind of knock it out all in one run, because just like me and everybody else, you get a tendency to try to overthink things or add certain things in here or correct what you're actually doing or what you project is going to happen. But 4 hours, going through all the rigmarole, putting it in there, but it's worth it though.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, so that's really it for the business plan. The special bonus that I talked about at the end, these are my marketing tips that I have for you guys out there. So you can kind of jumpstart your business. So if you're doing direct to customer, you don't have a broker, or you don't have, certain ways to get calls from where you need to go directly to consumers. The first thing that you want to have, right, is a good business name, right? There's certain businesses, it doesn't matter what the business name is, because you're going to get clients however. But if you're going directly to the customer, a good, catchy, memorable business name that's available on your Secretary of State's website. The second thing is that I like to play with is a tagline. You want to have a tagline, something catchy. So our original tagline for Zip was the fastest tools in town. We've evolved that a little bit to get it fixed by Zip. So we're going to get that jingle going, get it fixed by Zip coming out there. So you want something catchy, rememberable, ideally that you can put on like business cards and things like that. Mission statement. So mission statement or vision statement is very important as well. So that sets the tone of how you see yourself or how you project your business to be out to the public, right? And then that way it takes you to the next step of your audience and what your target audience is going to be. So what does your audience need from you? So when you're talking about marketing, you want to look at what does your audience want from you? The goods, the services is one thing, right? Appliance repair is one thing. You would write down appliance repair, but realistically, they don't want appliance repair. They want their clothes to be clean. They want their food not to be spoiled, right? So you break it down to that aspect, and it helps with your marketing so you can speak towards the result that they want, because they really don't want us to come out and fix their stuff because they don't want it to break, right? Then you can narrow down to that audience, and then toggle through some of your unique selling propositions. So basically what that means is just how you stand out, or what are you going to do different? And by identifying multiple unique selling propositions, that'll help you write copy that, you know, your potential customer can see. So this copy is important because you can speak directly to your customer through that proposition, right? One of our things is one of the big things that sets us apart from other repair service businesses, we don't give you a window of time to show up. We give you a time that we're going to show up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some may agree with this, some may not, but our customers love it and it just works, right? So that's our unique selling proposition. And then we have a couple things on here. You'll be able to get the list. There's quite a few other things in here, but it's so important for you to really kind of go through this so you can jumpstart your business, use it in combination with the business plan, and you'll be ready to go. So guys, any final thoughts from the day before we wrap up?
Oh man, solid. I like the step-by-step in the walkthrough. The flow that, you know, you kind of create or followed, I should say, with building yours. So, and good advice, man. Like, it's making me rethink some of the stuff I need to go back and do with my business too.
I totally agree. I like that we talked about the business plan is not something that's going to be set in stone. That's going to be ever evolving, and it helps you really start thinking through some things. I think it's a good action to be always thinking about what you're doing and if it's working towards the end goal. And as you are doing the business, those beginning foundational thoughts you started with it, they're going to evolve, but they're going to help you just think more and more precisely about what you're doing. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Hey, man. So like, man, again, you know, we want to bring you guys more business topics. So we got a list of stuff to touch on. So we're just getting started for this next quarter. So we're going to be breaking in quarter 3 here soon. So, you know, that's one thing. We definitely got to do a video wrap up on quarter 3, how we're doing and what the projection looks like for the end of the year. But again, I'm Marcus the Money Man. We've got Devontae the Guru and JD the Champ of Real Estate. And you've been watching the Triple Profits Podcast here on YouTube, somewhere on Facebook. But I hope you go to the website, reifinancialgroup.com, and download /business plan and download your free business and marketing bonus plan. Till next time.